Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about unique games. Games that I think that most people should at least try to play at least once, even though I'm pretty adamant about the fact that they're not for everyone. I think at least a few of you have heard me say that Death Stranding is one of my favorite games ever made, and it's definitely not for everyone. When you say, Josh played it, and I was actually surprised at how far you got. Death Stranding is definitely on this list, but the first game I'm going to talk about is called The Longing, which... Wouldn't you say that's a unique game?
Yeah, one of the most unique games there is.
Yeah, I've never seen a game like The Longing.
Nope.
And The Longing is supposed to take 400 days to beat. But in reality, there are many different ways within game that you can chop that time down, such as finding paper to draw on, books to read, playing music. You can play music in your room. The more you decorate, the faster time moves, and reading books, which is an interesting aspect of this because the game encourages you to read. What fucking video game do you know that encourages you to read? I don't know of any. So I would say, like, off top, that is number one on this list, actually. See, I'm not going to do the tier list 5 to 4 or whatever, or this is A. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying, like, if you are looking for a really unique experience, then at least try this game. However, there is a downside. And the downside is that when you are not in your room, time moves at the same speed that it moves on your computer, as in real life, like it follows the clock. You are on a 400-day countdown, and that's real days. Now, like I said, in your room, you can get time to move faster, but when you're out exploring, looking for things to do in your room, and just exploring the caves, time moves at the same speed that it moves in real life. And on top of that, you can go into the Hall of Eternity, and time just stops there.
Is there also a tool, like a tool that comes with The Longing where you can actually put like books in the game for your character to read?
I think there was. I remember seeing that on Steam. There was like some sort of like books, and I think you could upload books and then read them in the game.
Yeah.
I think. So basically you play as this character called a Shade, and you are a sentient alarm clock. Like, the king tells you, I mean, what else are you gonna call it? The king tells you, wake me up in 400 days, and then he goes to sleep, and every time you walk by him, you hear him snoring. I think it's hard for me to believe that the devs didn't intend for you to think a lot while you play this game, because very much of it is walking around in a very slow manner, looking for things to do. Like, okay, it takes like 2-3 hours to open one door in this game sometimes. Like, there's one part of the game where you have to wait 2 weeks for a stalagmite to drop in order to traverse another area. It takes 2 weeks, like 2 real weeks. Sure, again, you can go in your room and pass time, but like, this is the beginning of the game, so you're not going to have a lot of stuff to do in your room yet. You have to go out and find the books, find paper to draw on, and find the pieces of the instrument in order to play music, which takes a while, right? So in the beginning of the game, it's just real time. And Josh watched me play this game.
Yeah.
Like, if you look back on my channel, which don't, because all those videos are bad, but you can see that, like, I was, like, reading through books while I was playing this game. I was mostly making videos for one person, and I would just talk about random stuff and rant. I went on so many rants while playing this game. And this game, it's a lot deeper than it looks, at least because of how it makes you think. Like, one thing, you can self-delete in this game. Like, there's a cliff that you can crawl through, and the music gets really atmospheric and dark and dreary, and it's really dark, like it's actually dark on the game. And then you get to this cliff and you can jump off. And that's a legit ending. I looked it up. I wanted to know. So I didn't want to do it, but I wanted to know. That's a legit ending. There's a few endings, actually, and there's one that I guess is supposed to be the best, but the ending I got was, well, waking the king up, I guess. And you'll see what happens when you do that, because you can just wait out the 400 days and wake up the king. But there are other endings that you can get. They require you to think and to do a number of things that you probably wouldn't think to do the first time around. But believe it or not, this game does actually encourage you playing again. You can play once and get the ending that you get, and then you have a choice to reset, which I think I did. And I restarted again, but I didn't finish it. But I'll probably go back to it, because there are times when it makes you like, okay, like something that really stood out to me is how much this game makes you appreciate the little things. Like, for instance, when that stalagmite actually dropped, I remember being excited about it. I remember being like, yes, it dropped. Now I get to go explore the other side. And I was super happy for that. And like there's another part where you have to wait for a pool to fill up with water, and then you have to swim across it in order to get into the library. And the library is like an essential place to go because you can get books and papers there, right? So you have to wait 2 in-game weeks to get in there. It's maddening, but for some reason I didn't mind. Like I played that game almost every day, and I think I ended up beating it in like something like 100 hours or something like that. I don't know. It wasn't very long. It wasn't 400 days, I'll tell you that. It wasn't fucking 400 days because, like I said, you can speed time up. I think on the 365th day, there's like a reward for his birthday, which I think is pretty fucking cool. The game has a lot of detail, and it's really a unique experience, and this is why I would recommend it to everybody. I would say at least try it. It doesn't mean you're going to finish it. It doesn't mean you're going to like it, but at least give it a try, because sometimes if you look somewhere you wouldn't normally look, you might find something that you didn't even know you were looking for, and that's what the longing is, right? Like, I didn't realize I was looking for this experience, but I'm so glad I had it. So the next game I'm going to talk about is the one I mentioned in the beginning, Death Stranding. And, you know, Death Stranding is one of my favorite games, and I remember watching this movie, Tenet. I guess that I saw it a little while after I had started playing Death Stranding. And I remember watching Tenet and thinking, you know, this would have been better as a game. And sometimes I think that about Death Stranding. It would have been better as a movie. But honestly, the experience I had with it, no. Because you can't have that experience with a movie. But you can only have the gaming experience because it's interactive. Like, the experience you have there cannot be replicated in a book or a movie or anything like that. And it's really something special for teaching people lessons and also just for experiencing beautiful pieces of art. And what's interesting about Tenet is that you have to watch it twice, right? You can't watch it once. You have to watch it the first time, and then you have to watch it again. And I remember liking it better the second time around because I actually knew what the fuck was going on. And the reason why I bring up Tenet is because I watched it around the time that I was playing Death Stranding, but also it's experimental, it's different, it's unique, and it offers an experience that one normally wouldn't get from movies, having to watch it again. And there are certain games out there that actually require you to play them over and over again for you to get the full ending. Death Stranding requires you to play it at least a couple of times to get like this full-on experience so that you can remember everything better. Death Stranding is a long game. On my first playthrough, I think I played like something like 123 hours, and that was my first playthrough, you know? And I played through it again and put in hundreds of more hours, and it's this game that I've spent so long in, and I've read the books, and it is so different from anything I've played, right? It's got elements of action in it, but it's a walking simulator at the same time. And I've never played a game where your main objective was basically to be an Amazon delivery boy. I've never played a game like that. And it's crazy because I appreciated the gameplay loop way more than I thought I would, because it was satisfying and fulfilling, and it felt really good helping all these different characters. I was so immersed, as they say, in this world. And again, this is not an experience that I think you can get from a movie or a book. Or, you know, this is a video game exclusive experience. And Death Stranding really strikes me as a game for people who want to make a difference in the world, but perhaps they lack the power or resources to do so. And so it puts them in the position of someone who does have the power and resources to do so and makes the right choice. And if you are not the kind of person who is willing to make sacrifices for the greater good, if you're not the kind of person that Sam is, then the game's not really for you, but I would still recommend it. Because not everybody's like that, and it's not to say that those are bad people. No, they have their reasons, but not everybody is willing to make, you know, huge sacrifices for other people. Not everybody worries about helping, you know, make the world a better place. But there are a lot of people who are like that, and a lot of people who feel powerless to do so. And Death Stranding takes that power and puts it in your hands. And you have the power to make all these characters within this world lives better. What's the most unique game that you've ever played?
I guess it would have to be Balatro, technically.
Balatro?
You use a poker deck, and you make poker hands, but instead of playing poker, you have to get a certain score. You basically have to get a certain score to beat the level. And it's like a roguelike, so everything's randomized, and you can get these things called jokers, which can like increase your combos and stuff like that. So each hand has a chip value and a multiplier, and you can increase that with planet cards, and you can use joker cards to increase your chips or your multipliers. And there's also tarot cards which can modify your cards you already have. You can also have cards in your deck that have bonuses, and all that creates like a synergy to like basically try to get the highest score possible.
And then there was another game that you were playing recently. I don't remember the name of it. It's a card game though.
Oh, Cobalt Core.
Cobalt Core. Yeah, that game looks very unique for me.
But what makes that unique is that you're in a spaceship, and you actually have to like move your spaceship side to side. And there's also like you can also like launch missiles and like have like drones and stuff, and you can control like where the movement of the drones are beyond just like attack and defense cards. Well, there's like a lot of strategy involved, but like the general concept is simple. It's just fun trying to figure out the different challenges, because there's like 8 different characters you can play as too, which changes what like cards you get, and that definitely changes each run. Yeah, there's apparently like 5 different difficulties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's like so it encourages being played over again.
Yeah, there's only 3 bosses.
So you know what other game encourages you to play over again? Cruelty Squad, which is, again, probably on that same list as The Longing when it comes to, like, unique, but not because of, like, okay, it's just a shooter at the end of the day, a boomer shooter, if you will, at the end of the day, but, like, dude.
Yeah.
Why does it look that way? Like, it's so fucking ugly. It's uglier than the boomer shooters of their day, right?
Right.
Like, it's literally uglier than the first Doom game. I stand by that, too. Cruelty Squad is so ugly. What is it about the game that I like so much? Well, it is a outright critique of capitalism. And it doubles and triples and quadruples down on that critique as many times as it can within gameplay and through the story. And, like, it feels like Psychosis. So what is it about Cruelty Squad that makes it so unique and such an interesting experience for me? Well, for one, it inspires a ton of creativity. There are many different ways in each level to get things done. There are tons of different upgrades you can buy with the money that you make from selling body parts on the body part market. Yeah, there's a market for body parts for selling liver and kidney and all kinds of stuff. You can basically use the different upgrades to make the game completely different. Like, I've seen people play this game in a completely different way than I would have ever fathomed to play it, because there are so many different upgrades that you can attach to yourself that can cause you to do things in a number of ways. Like, there's a level that I was stuck on for 2 hours because, number one, I will do the same thing over and over again before I get the inkling to go, maybe I should try something different. And Cruelty Squad tries its best to inspire creativity and get you to do things differently, but if you're stupid like me and stubborn, you just keep doing the same shit until finally you have a revelation and go, I never did walk down that alley over there. I wonder what's over there. Oh, look, it's a way to stealth inside the building and get your first kill without any issues whatsoever. Like, oh, wow, wish I would have thought of that 20 minutes ago after I got killed 80,000 times just running through the front door and firing away, And again, it feels like Psychosis. I said this earlier, but I'm saying it again. It feels like Psychosis. It feels like living in the head of one who was going through psychosis. And I would know what that feeling is like very much because I lived through psychosis. And when I play Cruelty Squad, it just feels like that's what the world looks like when you're in psychosis. Like, everything is so ugly, unwelcoming, and off-putting. Everything just makes you feel like, I don't know, like you're trapped. Kind of. There's like a weird claustrophobic feeling in Cruelty Squad because of the graphics and the way everything looked. And also there's just like all these random traps and levels that feel like they're put there just to mess with you. And they are. I mean, the dev of this game definitely wanted to fuck with your head when you were playing it. I'm not very good at Cruelty Squad because I'm not good at shooters, and the controls are very clunky in this game. And it takes a lot to learn to get around it, especially if you're not used to using a keyboard and a mouse. Like, I'm not used to using a keyboard and a mouse, so it took a lot for me to learn how to aim properly and get through the levels. But I haven't beat the game yet, but actually I did beat the game. That's another thing. When you beat this game, nothing changes. Except for the color of the water. I think the water turned red, and that's it. But nothing changes once you beat this game. Like, you're still in the same position that you were before. It just feels like insanity doing the same thing over and over and over again without ever reaching a goal. And that, I believe that is the point, because it is, again, a critique of capitalism. At the end, it's a critique of ultra hyper capitalism. And when life has been degraded and devalued to the point where you can just go around shooting people in the head and nobody cares. Another thing that makes this game very much like a schizophrenia simulator is the fact that there seems to be a voice in your head telling you what to do. Like, at first I thought it was a real person, but it seems to be your imagination talking to you, telling you to do all these horrible things, and I'm just like, bro, this is way too real. And like I said, the game is a hilarious critique of ultra capitalism and what happens when we allow our lives to be devalued by an insane government that has way too much power. I think that unique games exist for a reason. There are games like Nier Automata and Nier Replicant, the Nier series, that are quite unique that didn't make it on this list because they're more mainstream and they're more accessible. The Longing, Death Stranding, and Cruelty Squad are so incredibly different that most people are going to look at them and go, what the fuck is this? Like I said, they're directed at a very specific subset of people. Like for Cruelty Squad, the people that I think should play that game are people who want like a challenge, right? And people who want to like overcome something that is just like incredibly difficult for no fucking reason and also ugly at the same time. I think that Cruelty Squad is not for everyone because of how ugly it is. Truly, the ugliness factor of this game and the fact that it's like an old school boomer shooter is what keeps people from wanting to try it. But I do think that people should give it at least a chance because it is so interesting and it inspires so much creativity. It's actually a better game than most AAA shooters, and I stand by that statement. But a pattern with these games is that they are unapologetic about the thing that makes them unique. So for instance, The Longing has themes of isolation, and it wants you to wait, and it wants you to be patient, and it wants you to appreciate the little things, and it wants you to think, and it seems like it wants you to read. It has things within it for you to do, but it's not your typical type of gameplay, and it takes a long time to be able to get to a point where you can comfortably do a lot of the things that you would count as activity and gameplay within game. And The Longing is absolutely fucking unapologetic about this. It does not give a fuck how impatient you are. It doesn't care. And in fact, I would say that the perfect candidate for this game is an impatient person, because I am an impatient person, and I got through this game. I played it. I did the slow walking. I looked for the pieces for the instrument. I grabbed as many papers as I could and drew, and I did the puzzles that there are a few and far between puzzles, and I did those things, and I waited for the fucking pool to fill up, and I waited for that goddamn door to open after 4 fucking hours, right? And I am so impatient, but this game taught me like some level of patience. I swear to God, because I wasn't even mad playing it. Remember, I was just yep, it's gonna take 4 hours to open this door. It was just slow. It was just like this very slow moving, unapologetic experience, basically telling you like, hey, maybe you should learn some fucking patience in your life. Maybe patience isn't so bad. Maybe learning how to wait for things and appreciating the little things on the way to other things is how you should live your life. And I'm like, yeah. Right? It made me really patient. It taught me patience. And then Death Stranding, it wants you to really be alone. Like, for instance, Kojima wouldn't let you be able to play Spotify over the game while you're playing because he wanted you to feel the loneliness when you're on the road out there, right? And you do. Trust me, you feel that loneliness as you drive around or walk around, climb up mountains, and go through all this trouble to make deliveries. You definitely feel that loneliness, that sadness, that longing for another person. There is one game that I didn't talk about that I believe is really unique. It's from 1995, and the main voice actor and writer of the game is Harlan Ellison, the man who wrote I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and they decided to make that into a video game. And this game is one of the most moral games I've ever seen. Harlan Ellison himself said that you cannot make a single immoral choice if you want to get the good ending. You must do everything from a moral perspective. You must always make the right choice. And he said that you're gonna lose, but at least you can lose better every time by making the moral correct choice, each time you go through. And again, this is a game that encourages you to play over and over again. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream put you in the shoes of 5 different characters, each suffering through their own personal hells, as well as the external hell being projected upon them by Am, the supercomputer villain within the game. As you go through each route, you start to realize that some of these characters have not only been through some of the worst things possible, but some of them are not such good people. And there are parts in the game that will kind of compel you to make the wrong choice. But again, remember what Harlan Ellison said. This is a game where you have to make the moral choice every single time in order to get the true ending. And making immoral choices continuously will lead to some of the worst, most disturbing endings I've ever seen in a game, just so you know. And if you've read the short story, then you know. Just as with the other games mentioned here, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream leans heavily into the thing that makes it unique, the focus on morality. As I mentioned before, we should be open to experiences that are outside of our comfort zones. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, the game, was completely outside of a game I would normally play, but it sounded interesting, and since I read the short story, I wanted to try it out. Talking about I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream reminds me of my experience with Disco Elysium, another game that I didn't think I would get into, but I ended up liking very much. And I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is very unique, just like Disco Elysium, and they're very unique for 2 different reasons. But the point I want to make, which I think I've reiterated more than once, is that when you go outside of your comfort zone, when you look somewhere that you wouldn't normally look, you might find something that you didn't think you were looking for. And that's what happened with every game that I've named off here. They are in places that I wouldn't normally look, and I found something pretty amazing underneath.